On December 16th, 2025, the New York Knicks beat the San Antonio Spurs 124-113 to win the third ever NBA Cup championship. Now, I have been a fan of the idea of an in-season tournament. I think that there are things that can be improved on it though to actually make it more valuable, because I will be honest, I didn't necessarily make it an effort to tune into these games specifically for it being an in-season tournament. They were games that I was planning to watch as a fan anyways. It does bring a little bit more excitement to some of these early season games. However, in my personal opinion, I think it feels very short. The presentation is a little interesting and it just doesn't necessarily feel that special. We see the New York Knicks are not going to be raising a banner for this Cup championship. Now, the last two winners, the Lakers and the Bucks, did raise a banner. I think teams should raise a banner because that is the only way that it's going to have legitimacy as something worth chasing. If teams aren't hanging up banners for it, it just means it doesn't mean anything to that organization to win this. And like I said, I am a fan of an in-season tournament. I think it is a good idea to have an in-season tournament. It brings some excitement to some of these games and it could build some rivalries. However, I think that there are some changes that should be made. The first idea that comes to mind is to make the groups divisions. We already have the built-in divisions. Since the rule change to remove division winners getting a top 3 seed have meant nothing. I think you can still have an at-large bid for the 4th spot for each conference, but this brings division play back into the importance of the season. Not only is every single team that makes the tournament going to be able to hang a division championship banner, which again, I think teams should, it also brings more excitement to those games to revive some of those rivalries and actually make winning your division mean something again. I think with that, the in-season tournament part of the season should be extended just a little bit. I think that means obviously your championship game should move back, and I think it should, because why are we playing a championship game on a random Tuesday night in mid-December? There's two things that come to mind. Either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Obviously the NBA really loves their full slate on Christmas, so we can have a Christmas Eve championship game, or we can flip our slate onto Christmas Eve and have a Christmas Day championship game. Or you could do the same thing, maybe with New Year's or New Year's Eve. I get you get into college football a little bit there with the New Year's Bowls. So I can understand why you don't necessarily want to do that. And I can understand why they don't want to give up their Christmas games. However, I think just giving that extra week and a half of this gives you maybe 2 to 3 more games of a standings, so that a team, if they lose their first 2 cup games, they're pretty much out of it. Nobody cares at that point. Something else you can do that'll go alongside both of these is I think you should front load your division games. Again, that only really matters if you're going to have the groups be the divisions, but why not play everybody 2 to 3 times? I mean, obviously you play your division 4 times. I'm not saying we should play every single team 4 times within the first 2 months of the season. I'm not saying that, but play your whole division twice. That's 8 games. Now, currently you only play 4 games in your group. I'll use my Timberwolves as an example. We went 2-2. At that point, you're hoping for the differential to work out in your favor, but it may not. Again, you lose 2 games, you're at the mercy of everybody else. It's just so short that losing 1 or 2, you're out of it completely. If you get to 8, you can go 6-2 and still have a chance, and it's not like a 6-2 team isn't still a very impressive team. And again, looking at the Timberwolves group themselves, you already have the Thunder and you already have the Jazz who are in our division. Why are the Suns and the Kings here? You might as well give us the Nuggets and the Trailblazers and just make these the divisions. So far, we have made it the divisions. We've front-loaded division games so that everybody plays each other twice, making it an 8-game cup slate. And we've moved the championship game back either a week and a half to Christmas or 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks to New Year's. I do like the Tuesday, Friday kind of format of the NBA Cup season. You may have to add a Wednesday slate once in a blue moon to get to that 8, or you might have to start it right away. I think those are some of the logistical issues, which I could see why this hasn't been extended this far so far. However, I think those changes just to the schedule could make it mean more. Another thing, the courts. I do like that they're trying something. I do like that there's jerseys connected to this. However, again, using my Minnesota Timberwolves, we have a lime green court that makes it impossible to focus on the basketball. It's a distractor. When the best looking courts for this are the Brooklyn Nets and the Spurs, who just did gray, that means it's not necessarily working. Again, this is in my opinion. I know some people love the bright colors, and I did for the first couple years, but now it's just starting to get old with just bright color, random design on it. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a different court to give it, again, a separate feel. But I think there's better ways to do it. The first thing that comes to mind, again, just because I do like the gray court, is maybe have all the lines on the court be a team color. So all of those, the 3-point line, the out of bounds line, those become green. We use an alternate logo in the middle of the court. Again, maybe the NBA Cup can still be there. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a different feel to these games. However, when some of these courts are so bright, they become a distractor watching it either in person or on television. It is kind of harming the product. And finally, I think this is probably the most radical of the ideas that I have, but I think that the NBA Cup winner should be locked in to a top 4 seed. Obviously, for a team like the Knicks, they will probably finish in one of those top 3 to 4 seeds anyways. However, if you get a team like maybe the Phoenix Suns that are on that bubble, you're now giving them home court advantage. That is something that we are dialing in on these 5 games, or in an extended version, these 8 games. And we're dialed in for this tournament where it actually means something on top of the money. This also will keep fans interested in this because, again, you're a team like the Phoenix Suns that are in the mix to make the playoffs. You are really showing up to these games, you're supporting the team, you're really dialed in as well for these games, and that makes this mean something because the players are already bought in because there is extra money involved. I believe the number's around 500,000, I could be wrong in that, and a lot of them do end up donating it, which is awesome because it motivates them. They either give it to some of their teammates, it motivates them to help some of their teammates that are on 2-way contracts get a big paycheck, and they're also able to donate that money to charity. So the players and the teams are bought in for that aspect. This just gives them another aspect to buy in for, and the fans care more because I'll be honest, I don't think any of us care if Karl-Anthony Towns makes an extra $500,000. Love that he is donating it. That's awesome. I wish more people, and I know a lot of players do it, but you have all this money to donate it like that is super awesome. But quite frankly, if he would have bought a car, that nobody's going to care. However, if the Knicks winning this locks them into a top 4 seed, where if they start to slide, if injuries build up, they still have home court advantage, Madison Square Garden's gonna go crazy. And again, I don't want to lock them into a number 1 seed or a 2 seed. The 4 seed, you have home court advantage. You have that game 7 for the first series, and then after that, you have to play the rest of the way, but it locks them into a playoff spot. And it won't get too complicated to figure out with the play-in tournament, who slots in, things like that. Obviously, there's a little bit more of a question of how would that team operate in the back half of the season if they're already locked in, and I do get that concern because yes, if I'm the New York Knicks now, we're probably playing a lot of young guys the rest of the way through, and I'm not saying we tank games because you can still move from the 4 seed up to the 1 seed. However, I might be more inclined to play some of my younger guys, to play more of my bench, because not every game matters now because we're already dialed into a 4 seed. Even worse example is you have a team like the Utah Jazz, who are currently not one of the best teams in the NBA. You go on a roll and you win your in-season games and you win this NBA Cup. And now you're locked into a 4 seed regardless of your record. I could see that becomes an issue for some teams and an issue for some owners. Some fans may not like that, and I do get that. However, if we're being realistic, a 10-16 team isn't going to be one of those teams in the mix. I'm looking at, again, like a 6, a 7, and 8 seed that, hey, they would have been in the play-in tournament or potentially in the play-in tournament. Now they're just locked into a 4 seed. I think it gives just another benefit to these players. Again, I'll go back to what I opened with. When you don't raise a banner for something like this, it damages the image of what this means, how much it means, and how it's perceived. If the teams don't take this serious enough to hang a banner for, when they hang banners for Eastern Conference championships, meaning you didn't win the finals, you just won your conference. When teams hang division championships, which in its current form does not mean anything, we're not hanging NBA Cup banners. And I get it's just a banner, it's just one team, but if that's the precedent moving forward, is that this doesn't matter, then it's not going to matter. And it's a product that you're wasting effort on trying to plan, you're wasting effort on supporting this moving forward. And so I think expanding how much of the regular season it takes up, as well as expanding the benefits that the teams that win receive for either the playoffs or something else, that's going to make it a product that people are interested in, and it's something worth winning. What are your guys' thoughts on the NBA Cup? How much of it did you turn into? Again, I watched a decent amount of it, especially for my Wolves, but I wasn't going out of my way because it was a Cup game. Do you have a different opinion on how you feel about the Cup? Do you have an opinion about the Knicks and them not hanging a banner? Let me know down below in the comments. Subscribe if you're new. And other than that,